Hello, everybody. Welcome to this little video. Um, I am your host, Anubis3100 as always, and you might be wondering, oh, hey, this is a bit weird. There's just a video of you talking instead of what you call it, an artist talk. And so we're getting two artist talks this week actually. However, since of last week, I've been meaning to make just a little video, right? Try discussing the current state of the not the NFT market per se, but the crypto art scene, and the crypto art movement present within what you classify as the NFT space, right? Um, Especially since I've been in this space for 2 years now. We've had some pretty huge events happening in this space. A lot of the last 3 months have not been easy on the space whatsoever. I think everybody sort of can tell, with the Luna and UST, Three Arrows Capital, Celsius, a lot of bleeding, um, a lot of rugs, NFT rugs, PFP rugs, all that jazz. And even us artists on the other side have seen the volume due to the nature of how the market moves, right? The volume of crypto art based sales has slowed down a bit, right? But yeah, so this video is just literally me talking about the current state of the NFT, the crypto art market, and you'll notice I'm trying to make an effort essentially to um use the term crypto art instead of NFTs, because it's been clear the past 2 years that there is some form of separation now between the two aesthetically, conceptually, how the markets move, who they choose. There's still the same sort of ebbs and flows in the market. However, we've been seeing some interesting stuff. But yeah, it's like, just to get into it, like, how is the state of the crypto art market? It's doing good, right? Um, Sales have not fully disappeared, but again, because of what has happened, is specifically with Three Arrows Capital having to liquidate their whole art collection, which that in itself will be a very interesting auction to watch and see how the space deals with and interacts with it if it decides to. Excuse me. If it decides to essentially go crazy over the auction. And who knows, Three Arrows Capital gets some of its money that it owes, like 3 billion or some shit. We've had Celsius, which is like a bank, and lenders, they stopped their shit. UST and Luna is sort of what started the bear market, right? And essentially when that happened, about, I believe, in my memory, it feels as if it was 3 months ago. It might have been a bit less or a bit more. But the crypto art market saw a big hit when that happened. A lot of money really did disappear of the crypto market, and with the crypto market being, the foundational building block for NFTs, NFTs have taken a hit in the crypto art scene, especially in the first few months. Like, a lot of artists were like, what is going on? It's been very interesting to see which artists are staying and which artists are leaving, because when I personally joined in at the end of 2020, in October of 2020, it was, people were still just getting into this, and at some point in 2021, NFT markets, crypto art markets, and crypto markets essentially hit at least what I would classify as a weird euphoric state, right? Where it was like printing money, free money, right? And artists, good or bad, their quality of works is irrelevant to the matter. Where could make some money, and if they were smart about how they moved, they could have made some pretty good moves. right? And then the moment that Luna and UST stuff happened, we saw a lot of the movement slow down. Artists weren't selling out as much. A lot of artists also left, which is kind of hilarious, you know, especially, you know, in this space where a few months before everybody's still screaming "Wag me," you know, we're all gonna make it, and all these sort of influencer like, you know, quotes to just try to keep morale up in a time where a lot of people should have been trying to save themselves. And we saw, you know, again, like Three Arrows Capital, that big liquidation. For those who are curious, actually, I think we may have talked to one. I know we have talked to one artist whose work might go on auction for that liquidation, which is Terrell Jones. I recommend you go check out the artist doc. I think it's pretty good. But there might be more, because we found out, and this sort of delves into the crypto art scene, what may happen also. Some of the stuff Vincent Van Gogh, if has been buying, right, or the sort of Vincent Van Gogh cap, or his art collection that he has, some of it seems to be owned by Three Arrows Capital, right? And so a lot of artists in the space, for example, are connected to this sort of big event, right? We see the stolen money, and then now artists are like, oh shit, you know, our work might get auctioned off. You know, Drifter Shoots is in the Three Arrows collection. You know, they have an insane Fidenza collection, all that jazz. And so it's going to be interesting to play out. I hope the prices don't dip too much, especially with, again, I actually wanted to make it a note to talk about the super rare bond, right? Because this sort of really ties to the crypto art thing, right? Where as the volume slowed down, the super rare bot is still active, right? But you can see with your own eyes that the volume of sales and the amount of sales has slowed down. So I keep repeating that, but it's sort of, you'll see it where now you'll see it when before super rare, you know, it sometimes goes crazy, puts out tweets with 3 ETH, 10 ETH, 11 ETH. And those still happen, don't get me wrong. Those sort of huge like sales are still happening in this space, but now they've slowed down to where super rare bots, we're seeing much more 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, below 1 ETH sales happening, which is also not bad. And this is tied to some of the advancements we've had in the space, right? Because not everything is negative with this money lost. We've had some pretty big advancements that will help crypto artists. Manifold being one, right? Fully open for beta, fully sort of out of beta, open to the public. Your own custom contract building, full sort of sovereignty over your contract editing, and they're updating their stuff pretty regularly to where now you have a reward collectors, a claim page, right? So that's pretty good. Foundation launched their OS, they're launching their Foundation OS, and they've, at least from my personal Foundation account, my Manifold mints are now fully integrated. So their Manifold integration is fully underway, or is even fully completed, which is very nice, because it's been sort of argued over the past 2 years that though super rare has a much stronger collector base, a stronger collector base, and what I would personally classify as a bit more money flow towards artists in there, just specifically artists. What is it? Foundations UI. Excuse me. Foundations UI is sort of the most perfect one in this space, and so to have at least Manifold integration, and also super rare integration, because you can find your super rare mints on Foundation now, which is pretty good, because you can sort of use Foundation much like people use OpenSea to show off their whole created art collection, but with a lot nicer UI. The one weird move, at least when it comes to Foundation, that's happened is it's been open for all. For those, if you joined before the last 6 months, I believe, Foundation was an invite based platform where artists, once you were invited onto the platform and you sold your first NFT, you got 3 to 5 invites. And then after their first year, they put out 10 invites to anybody that has sold. So essentially you could have gone anywhere from 10 to 15 or 13 to 15 invites, and they opened it to the public. And so a lot of artists, including myself, are feeling a bit iffy about that, because this is a problem I'll sort of discuss later, right? It's becoming more apparent that we are in need of curation as much as it is, gatekeeping, and there can be some, backdoor play. Curation is heavily needed in this space, given the moment complete open access is given to artists minting. The platforms see a flood of, artworks, not fully strong artworks, and it tends to water down the quality of artworks, good artworks that people can see and explore. And so that was with Foundation. Super rare spaces have been launching, if you haven't checked in on super rare for a while, which is essentially a way to let people who have created the space, and for those who are curious of spaces, it's essentially the own curatorial room for a community. So Museum of Cryptoart Mocha has a space. Carlos Marcial launched his own space as Metakey, and these are spaces which allow artists who are not on super rare to be onboarded on super rare, and then they're mint on super rare. However, if you are only whitelisted and brought on through the spaces, you can only mint through the spaces. So that there is some sort of not roadblocks in the way. There is some hoops you have to jump through, but super rare has sort of opened up their curation a bit, to those who at least have the best sort of spaces ideas and get the most votes in the DAO, which is pretty good, because Mocha whitelisted their whole Genesis collection. Metakey is highlighting Latin American artists. I believe there is about there's over 10 spaces now, and so the curation arm for super rare has been opened a little bit more. And funny enough, I got let on to the Mocha super rare. This is gonna be a little bit of flex for myself, because I sort of never expected this would happen when I first joined the space. But I was the first artist that was let on the Mocha super rare spaces, and funny enough, I am sold out on super rare very recently. And so this essentially leads me to the next point. Other than super rare opening up, easing its curation a little bit to where it's a little bit more achievable if you know who to talk to and who to work with. And they just updated their UI, although a lot of us in the space agree that super rare's UI needs a little bit more tweaking, especially for works that aren't square ratioed or 1x1 ratio. Other than that, super rare has just been doing its own thing. They have a gallery in New York, which is kind of wild to see spaces like websites. This is sort of the start of certain galleries are going to be established. So the super rare gallery has been established, and yeah, OpenSea in itself has sort of transitioned to Ocean Port, which is sort of their own protocol, much like Zora's protocol, and it's supposedly made OpenSea a bit easier to use and a bit safer, and it allows people to build on top of it if they want, which is quite nice for artists who want to build their own sites using protocols. So now artists in the space have access to Zora protocol, Foundation, Zora protocol, Foundation protocol, and OpenSea's protocol, which is quite nice. And yeah, the another topic I wanted to bring up, and this is actually really interesting. When the Luna UST Terra Luna thing hit, we saw a massive slowdown, and even some big collectors in the space stopped collecting works for a bit. But funny enough, it seems as the prices of ETH, hit 1,000 Yeah, close to 1,000. I don't know, one, around 1,000. Yeah, I believe close to 1,000. A lot of some of the big collectors have returned collecting, and I myself, surprisingly enough, though they were my friends, and I'm thankful for that. I sold out on Super Rare, uh, which was kind of wild to me, right? Again, they're not huge figures. Most of my sales are below 1 ETH, but the fact that during a bear market, um, the collectors are now have started to come back and start, capitalizing on essentially the huge market discount given to all collectors on all art. It's pretty interesting to see, because now we're also get to see which collectors are actually here playing the long game with the artists, which collectors are investing in artists, and which collectors were here just when the free money was being printed, and now they're gone because no, it's not printing money now. Now we're entering sort of illiquid, slow moving sideways territory, at least in my opinion. And keep in mind, I've only been here for 2 years, and it's been a wild 2 years. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see the fact that collectors just waited a little bit, and now they're starting to buy. Um, you could sort of gauge this a little bit also by just going on Super Rare's community tab, and they have top collectors, and you can see it by month. It's month, 7 days to a day, and then all time in a year. And so money is still being spent, right? If you go on Super Rare, you'll see live auctions going, for 2 ETH, 1 ETH, 1.7 ETH, and sub 1 ETH. And even then, we've had the outliers in the space that have sold for 10 ETH, 12 ETH, right? Grant Young, I believe, his work has been selling. Joe Peace or Pessy, Metakey, and so the established artists, while they have experienced a bit of a slowdown, I would say, in the frequency of sales, their prices have not taken a hit, which is really interesting to see in comparison to NFT projects when looking at just pure crypto art, because it seems that crypto art is just holding its prices, right? Or at least collectors who have certain conviction in artists are not worried at all, and they're now starting to invest. Well, not invest, but buy more of this art now, as a sort of way to make sure that the artists who are staying stick around until what we would call the next bull run, right? And so it's very nice. It's very motivating. Funny enough, there was a tweet today saying, it's just a friend of mine. Well, not a friend. It's a person that I follow on Twitter, and they're saying now is a weird time where they wouldn't really onboard a lot of their friends, and why I'm in sort of agreement of that, where like now is sort of a weird time to onboard people who are just gonna purchase in NFTs, or for a fact that they'll delve into the collectible route more than the crypto art. However, personally, I think it's sort of the perfect time for artists to delve. Gas fees have become significantly cheaper. The slowdown has also made it a bit easier for entry, where you can just come in, enter Twitter Spaces, start talking to crypto artists, will respond to you. It's just like this slowdown will also allow you to talk to collectors and such with a bit more ease, and it will the this is a word that gets thrown around in this space, and I mean a lot, right? But if you sort of come into the space now and you're starting to mint works, and even you sell or stuff doesn't sell and it just sits there, you have started to build your provenance 2 years or a year ahead of the coming bull run, or the coming bull runs, for example, as much as I hate that term, right? and we've seen it with punks, right? And we've also seen it a little bit with Bored Apes Club, and even with Iders. Bored Apes Clubs are back, right? And so the next bull run, people will still look for provenance, right? And so the older you are, or the earlier you are, the more provenance you have. And if people see that, they'll immediately jump onto you, because then they realize, oh, you stuck around through the bear market. And even it sort of looks, at least to me, it looks good a little bit if you enter during the bear market. And by the time things start going up again, you're an artist who's figured out their style and stuff, and you're essentially establishing your career. I mean, personally, it's not sort of the time to, I wouldn't tell artists to jump full-time into the space unless you're sort of really big, like full-time, like pure, I'm an artist who sells NFTs and that's it. No sort of other form of job, whether no other job. And I really mean it, where just like you're painting, it's a bit hard to establish it unless you're already an established artist, right? An artist with a big following, or a traditional artist who your collectors will follow you, right? But if you're not that, it's a bit hard. But it's a really good time to start to get in part-time, or just mint a few pieces, talk to people on Twitter. It's also a good time to enter Tez. This reminds me, I actually haven't talked about Tez at all. But yeah, I'll talk about Tez right after this. But yeah, no, now is a really good time for artists. And I mean artists, right? Not collectibles, not PFPs. Nobody trusts the PFP. Like, nobody trusts projects, especially with certain hacks going around, and the free mint hacks and all that jazz, or the free mint fake transactions. And so pure art now is a really good time to enter and establish yourself. And this sort of leads me to my next point of establishing themselves. Tezos. Because I think it's sort of ended on a bunch of big collectors' radars, specifically with FX Hash coming. I don't know if it's coming out of, yeah, it's out of beta. The spending on Tezos has matured a little bit. Tezos bot now is primarily tweeting out 500 to 1,000, over 1,000 Tez purchases and sales. And established artists are able to command pretty good prizes on Tez, equatable to like 1 ETH to ETH on Ethereum, which is kind of nice. And I've been saying this for a year, because I joined Tez when the whole, Ethereum is burning the planet phase of the space, early 2021. But it's everybody who's joined Tez has noticed Tez has a lot of good art, like insanely good art for really cheap. And we're talking $1 to $5 multi editions, or even one of ones, which is kind of crazy. And and it also, we found out, and this is thanks to Art Gnome, almost every NFT you've done, through object and stuff, and hit get on contract, is you can fully back them up in comparison to your Ethereum NFTs. And we'll talk about backing up your NFTs, I think, as the closer for this. But for Tezos, a lot of painters, drawers, illustrators, 3D modelers, internet coders, writers have made it onto Tezos, and now we're seeing some of that market mature. FXS was the first sign, because we got to that moment when sort of some whales found out about it. They started spending a lot, and that cued in a lot of people to just FX Hash. But then now they're onto object. And due to the limitation on Ethereum, I think where Tezos is going to mature more, just because, again, you can mint so much, and these collectors are realizing, oh, there is some stuff that I can't own Ethereum that I can own on Tez, and it's priced so cheaply that I can do it, and also, sell it for pretty expensive or pretty high prices, if you will, which really shouldn't be the aim of you purchasing works, but you know, that's how some people move in this space. But yeah, no, it's just, I mean, Tezos has had interactive NFTs for a year, and I mean, video games running on Tezos, 3D models, rotation, generative stuff running on Tezos. In comparison to, you know, and this is no shade towards Super Rare, but you know, Super Rare is only starting to roll out interactive NFTs, or Foundation only having, you know, PNGs, JPEGs, MP4s, and 3D models, and audio files, or not even audio files, right? I think OpenSea is sort of the closest one to open, but even a place like Object and even Hikanak or Tia now, they take so, like, their file variation, the amount of files they're able to accept is actually insane. And artists, I would say, have been cutting their teeth on Tezos for a year now, and so it's good to see. I would shout out Vertical Cryptoart, because they're sort of, they do a lot of work on Tezos, on the Tezos Foundation, and they just had a show in London called Proof of People, and it's essentially been, it was what an NFT show should have been. It's, or at least, yeah, literally, it was art, it was very art focused. You know, it was a huge, it was a pretty huge sort of space that Vertical Cryptoart got, and they put out a banger of the show. They had a lot of artists, and they actually cared about the curation for the art. And that's the pretty cool thing, is a lot of the artworks that sold during the shows sold for for pretty good amounts of Tez, a considerable amount of Tez each. So that was good to see that, you know, finally fully art focused shows are actually getting their due. Even Mocha, Music and Cryptoart, had their own show during NFT NYC, and that show looked amazing in comparison to some other shows. You also guys heard about the last artist talk we uploaded last week with the Making It sort of group of artists crew, which I'm part of. Like, we hosted our own show, and so it's artists are figuring out in the space how to sort of move, how to host our own stuff. It's still sort of wild to me that a group of artists during NFT NYC managed to host their own show, right? And the other thing as well, at least the one thing I noticed, the curation in the space, at least during some of the events, is getting better. Although there could be some disagreements about how NFT NYC in itself, and the events in NFT NYC and the official NFT NYC events were done. The diversity collection for NFT NYC was pretty good. It was, even as a person who was critical, and this is biased on me because I made it to NFT NYC, which was pretty surreal. But I thought it was a good collection. There was some weird stuff that happened there, but that's a whole different, that's a hilarious topic. So I don't, which, you know, you'll probably hear me talk about with a few artists in the space, but it was a pretty good collection. You know, and so and to the diversity point, it was actually pretty fun to see a bunch of artists from around the world be part of it. Just diversity for diversity's sake, there was some pretty good. It was a pretty good, you know, diverse bunch of people, and you could tell that at least there was some good thought went to the curation of the show and the exhibitions, which is pretty nice, right? And even congratulations to the artists who were not taking part of like the NFT NYC show, but whoever the shows they were taking part of managed to get them on the billboards there and the other shows, because it's still a pretty good feat, especially happening when the Luna and US Terra had just happened, and a lot of money had disappeared, right? People were joking around on Twitter that it was going to be a giant therapy session. You know, I personally could not go there, but the pictures I received were pretty great, and they did a good job motivating me to stay in this space, along a lot of other artists who partook in the show. But yeah, what else? I remember, if you couldn't tell, this sort of, I wanted to do this video and I hit the recording button. I wanted to leave something towards the end, but I don't remember it. It is what it is. It'll probably come to me. But yeah, it's like the space has changed a lot in the last 2 years. There is some stuff that definitely should worry artists. There is no doubt about that. There are definitely some hindrances towards adoption, also just for artists. We hear this in spaces all the time, right? Artists are already pretty bad at, being sort of company to promote themselves, be the CEO, do the invoices, all that jazz, to be a full functioning artist. And this space relies heavily on you doing all of that, right? Especially if you're not represented by a gallery and they're minting for you. And even if they're minting for you, a lot of us would advise that you mint on your own, for the sake of sovereignty and full control and all that jazz. And so there's a few hurdles that need to be ironed out in this space. Oh, and I remember now the sort of topic I wanted to talk about. And this sort of goes to an actual hurdle in this space. It sort of needs to be solved or needs to be addressed by at least, to me, the artists that join the space, the crypto artists. And it's a problem, it currently being addressed in one way by Art now, right? I call him the grandfather, crypto grandpa, or a crypto art grandpa, right? But he has realized that, IPFS is not a permanent sort of pinning, right? A lot of these platforms like OpenSea, Foundation, even Tezos and all that jazz, they have to pay for pinning for this stuff to remain on there for as long as they keep paying for it, right? And so our NFTs, and essentially all sort of NFTs, I think he estimates, I think half of the NFTs are going to be completely broken, right? And by broken, mean the company that's paying for this NFT pinning, right, has disappeared, or not has disappeared, has stopped pinning, and so they're no longer pinned, and so now you just have an empty token with a broken link, right? And that's sort of been a big criticism towards the NFT space, that it's like, yeah, like what happens when your link just fucking dies, right? So his whole thing is, I'm building a sort of platform that allows you to back up your NFTs, download them all, and because of the nature of IPFS, if you upload the same image to IPFS apparently is able to detect that it's the same image and just puts it back on the same link, so the NFTs are immediately restored. Now that really doesn't address the sort of, how much you have to pay for pinning yourself as an artist, but that's one way to sort of save your NFTs. And to the Tezos point, which made me want to talk about this whole thing, right? You can back up both your Tezos and your Ethereum NFTs. When I did that personally, I found out that all my Tezos NFTs are completely back-upable, right? I could back up every single one I owned, and every single one I've minted, I believe. At least that was in my possession. With Ethereum, there were a few NFTs that were on private servers And so you can back up those, and the rest you can download. And then some, yeah, the rest were on private servers. You couldn't download them for some reason. And here is the weird thing that I've noticed, and maybe I could, here, I'll check it out right now. But the weird thing itself is when, what is it? I'm watch me say what is it 10 times. The yeah, sorry, I paused there for a second because Artno changed his profile picture, right? It confused me. But when you essentially, when I was looking through the list of the private NFTs, what popped up was the Manifold contracts, which was a little bit weird to me because Manifold doesn't use IPFS. I believe they use Arbitrium, something like that, and so I couldn't back up those, and that worried me a little bit. But hopefully, this is a problem that will be addressed in the next coming years. You know, it's asking me to log it into this thing, so I won't do it now. But you can. This is also a sort of shout out to Club NFT. That's what it's called by Artno, because it's a really useful service, right? Everybody who's been buying NFTs, at least crypto, and especially cryptoart NFTs, right? And if you own the expensive collectibles like CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, all that jazz, go back up your NFTs, because this the fact that these can sort of disappear, right, is a little bit worrying. And so make sure you back them up in case they do disappear and somebody stops paying for the pinning, and you're able to restore them. But also, you know, if we figure out a way in the future, and everybody tells me this is impossible, right? Like, because the blockchain requires so much energy or whatever. And it's, I believe it's energy, right? And so much coding is gonna require to pay so much to get your stuff to be on chain. But I'm pretty sure, you know, the sort of ingenuity in this space and what we classify as a Web3 it's not lacking in any sense. So I'm pretty sure this is a problem that will be tackled in the future, especially when the bigger players in the space realize more and more, oh, I need to fully have this stuff saved. I'm pretty sure we'll figure out a way around the fact that some of these links might break. Now, some of them might break in the next 3 years. Who knows? Just make sure you download them. It will be a pretty big zip file. I've personally found it like that, but put it on a hard drive. You know, label it my backed up NFTs, and just forget about it until some breaks and you personally restore it. And yeah, and just hopefully, I'm really hoping Manifold fixes that sort of little problem, or maybe it's the sort of pinning service they use that needs to figure it out. Because again, yeah, when I noticed that, I was like, hold on, Manifold, I really need to be able to back up my Manifold now. Me being an artist, I have the artworks, the original artworks on a hard drive, so I shouldn't really be worried. But for anybody who purchases the work, yeah, I recommend you do it. And yeah, I think that's sort of really pretty much it. There hasn't really been a lot of big changes in the space. Just events are continuing, and people are sort of getting tired of events, because like, how many events can you go to in a year that are just NFT events located around the world and get a break from that? It was also a little bit hilarious that NFT NYC this year happened in less than 12 months of the year before. But like, other than that, it just, you know, sales just slowed down a bit. The amount of sales and also just the amount of money being spent has slowed down a fair bit, but it's not where artists cannot eat at all. Especially if you're an artist living in the third world. If you're established, then you're able to sell. You're sort of pretty good, and if you have positioned yourself well enough for something like this, because people have been calling for something like this to happen. for a long while, you're sort of chilling. You're just sort of making art, capitalizing on the discounts that's happening, and there are certainly a lot of discounts happening. It's actually insane. The simple fact that it's just ETH was like I'm in Canada, so ETH hit 1,500 Canadian, 1,000 I think 200 Canadian, something like that. Maybe not, maybe 1,300. It was pretty wild because then just people, at least artists, people giving the excuse for artists when during the pump, right? That um, you know, the entry prices are kind of cheap. Right? It's too expensive to be able to buy some of these, and then 6 months later, works that were priced at 6,000 just by the nature of the market are now priced at 1,000. And the even cooler thing is, it's good to see certain collectors capitalize on that, and they were waiting for that. I've noticed some collectors who were waiting for that to happen to then be able to come in and scoop a few pieces, and also just be able to support an artist during a slower period. I remember this was one thing my professors were telling me about in my fine arts school, where it was like, or in my fine arts degree in university, where it was like, artists have ebbs, like just like art, just like any market really. We have ebbs and flows in the market, and artists will have slow periods and then fast moving periods, and you just have to sort of get used to it, be able to figure your way through it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. At least that's what I would say the current state of the crypto art market. If you're an artist just looking to get in here, experiment with NFTs, literally now is the perfect time. Everybody's just talking the timeline. I've seen so many tweets saying, "Yo, the timeline's pretty clear and relaxed now," and I'm like, "Yes, it is. It is. It's pretty great." A lot of good painters are still around. Tezos is popping. Cheaper art is everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty good. And yeah, there will be 2 talks uploaded this week for you guys to listen to, and also keep an eye out in the Discord in general chat for a sort of little voting poll. It might end up in announcements chat. I have to check with the team, the office team, Metakey, because me and Geeks Gambit might be doing like little game night streams in the Discord channels for the Meta crew. We'll be playing free-to-play games and even some paid games if people in the Discord, like Apex, Fall Guys, Destiny, whatever free-to-play game out there, and we'll put it in the voting. And also, games like Minecraft, if people, we know Minecraft's like gone hard on NFT worlds and all that jazz, but just a little server day session where we all get together as a better crew and just play. Me and Geeks Gambit, excuse me, think it'll be pretty cool. It'll also be pretty fun during this bear market. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video talking about the state of the art market. If you want to get in contact with me, just tag me on Twitter at Anubis_3100, or just tag me in the Metakey Discord, and I'll respond to you there. Also, if you want to post your art, you have to be a Metakey owner, but if you're a Metakey owner and you're watching this, post your art in the Dwa Art channel. We'd love to have you there, or scroll up and find some links. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next talk. Have a good one. Bye.